Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Early Days, where entrepreneurship meets storytelling. And it's all brought to you by Prowse Chowne. And actually, this guy's so good, he gets not one, but 2 episodes. Mike Calverley, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
We're going to talk in the second segment about your current company, which is Propellerant Consulting. But today, we want to start with your journey at Labatt. How the heck did you get a peach job there?
Well, that goes back a long time ago. It feels like a lifetime. I was getting set to graduate university. I was going to school in Ottawa. And while I was going to university, I got arguably the best job you could have, campus beer rep. So if you think back to the late 80s, being the beer guy on campus wasn't such a bad gig. So it started back there. I was just fortunate enough. I got offered a job by Labatt while I was going to school. And yeah, it was quite a journey from there.
So your job was to give out beer to students, or what was your job?
I think it was more promotion, but it really was about getting the brand out there. This is just when Budweiser had first launched into Canada. So it was the idea of promoting Budweiser in Canada. So yeah, that was my job in my very last year of university, to help promote Budweiser, which was a bit of a challenge maybe early days, but giving away free beer doesn't really hurt.
So what were you taking marketing at university? So why did they approach you?
Bad luck and mismanagement, maybe. No, just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I was working at the campus bar. I knew lots of people. Pretty gregarious guy. And so the campus rep that was there was graduating and kind of recommended me for the job. So I just happened to be at the right place, right time, and said yes. So no, I was actually taking law and psychology. I was getting set to write my LSATs and become a lawyer, I thought. When Labatt approached me after that year of being the campus rep, and said, hey, we have a full-time sales job for you, if you'd like it. And it was one of those, law school, that was what I kind of had my heart set on. But, if the sales thing doesn't work out, I can always go to law school later and a career later. I think it kind of worked out.
I think it kind of worked out. Yeah. I bet there was some fun marketing initiatives. I know there was the Stanley Cup in a case you did one time when into the NHL playoffs. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, really cool. So I started my career in sales on the road in Ottawa, and then Labatt had a program where they took classically trained consumer packaged goods marketing folks and paired them with street sales guys. So I got approached to get into that program. So I moved my wife to Toronto. So from Ottawa, we went to Toronto and got to work in brand teams. So started in marketing, running promotions. And one of the things I was able to do was be a part of the NHL for Labatt in Canada. And one of the things that was kind of my idea and got to bring it to life was mini Stanley Cups in case. So that was a big thing back, again, feels like a lifetime ago, when the beer companies were putting things in case. That was one of the things we figured out, and pretty neat. I remember getting phone calls saying, hey, I'm a big, doesn't matter which team, Toronto Maple Leafs fan or an Edmonton Oilers fan, and can you get me that cup? And I remember saying, that's a really tough one to get. Let me see what I can do. But really, it was the exact same cup with just stickers on them, and I had a drawer full of stickers. So I could figure out how to get them the one they needed. But it was, that's a pretty tough one. Let me see what I can do. Yeah, here you go.
Here you go.
Yep.
So then I'm thinking, if you were becoming a lawyer, but you're now a salesman, but then now you're into marketing and branding. So probably for you that challenged your mind, which you needed.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think even from the very early days of my career, I got a curious mind, and I think it sort of evolved into just being a lifelong learner. Hey, there's always the next thing to learn. There's always the next thing to figure out. And even when you think you have a good handle on something, the world's changing around you. And the consumer may be changing, or the customer may be changing, or there's different pressures. So even when you think you've got something and you're feeling pretty confident about it, things can change. And so being a lifelong learner, I think, is a really great trait to have.
So now you're in Toronto. How the heck do you get to Edmonton?
Just, I think a series of good decisions. It's easy to look back and say that was a good decision. I got offered a few different things to do, but the opportunities just didn't seem right. And they were putting together a team in Western Canada. They had just amalgamated the BC division with the Prairie division into one team. And the president, newly minted president at the time, was putting together a team and said, hey, and I knew him a little bit. He worked at Labatt, knew him a little bit. He said, hey, would you be interested in coming west? And so I had the opportunity to either live in Vancouver, because we had a brewery in New West, or live in Edmonton. And I sort of convinced my wife that Edmonton would be a great place to live. And it absolutely was the best decision to move our family. We had two young boys. One was 13 months and the other was just over 2 years. So to move our family here was absolutely the best decision back in the early 80s, or 2000 and early 2000s.
Early 2000s. But there has to have been some big challenges for you. Suddenly you're moved to a new city, a young family just starting out.
Yeah, really pretty awesome times to come here. We knew really the gentleman who ended up becoming my business partner. We knew him. We didn't really know anybody else, but we had two young boys. What do? You put them into hockey and you make friends. But interestingly, within our first 6 months of living in Edmonton, we felt better than the whole 5 years we lived in Toronto. I know Edmonton fans will love to hear that, but it's true. We fell in love with the city. People were so welcoming. When you're not from here, it really was fantastic to lay down roots right when our kids were little.
So business-wise, starting this new venture with having BC and the Prairie provinces all together, what was your biggest challenge back then work-wise?
Really just communicating the vision of what we wanted this business to become. The provinces were all different. The brands were different. You had Manitoba, very strong, heavy Labatt. Alberta was very much a Molson place. Saskatchewan, very much a Molson place with Pilsner. BC, very strong with kokanee. So you had a lot of different things going on. So to get priorities lined up for all four provinces, try to find the synergies, communicate where we wanted to take the business, big challenge. And we had to reinvent ourselves. So fantastic, lots of travel. I was on the road a fair bit, but amazing. There was amazing people here.
And you reflect back on the 2000s. Do you remember a big win of a certain line, or where you just went, oh, we're on the right track here?
I think we made the really tough decision back then. I came from Toronto, where I was the in-case guy. I figured out how to get stuff into case and do everything else, but we realized, looking at the numbers, that wasn't the smartest thing. We needed to pivot. It was very expensive to do that. We needed to do something different. And so we canceled and stopped all the in-case stuff because it's hugely expensive. And we took that money and we invested in more merchandising, better brand building versus really just trying to switch people. And that paid off in the long run. That was a really bold decision. I remember standing up in front of the sales team saying, we're getting rid of in-case. And their hair was on fire. Like, we're going to get murdered. And it's like, no, we've run the numbers. We really spent our time, did our homework. Yes, there'll be some short-term pain, but the long-term brand building benefit we're going to derive from taking that money and reallocating it is going to stand the brands in way better stead. And absolutely, 2 years after we made that decision, the brands really took off.
What was the biggest win?
I think what we had done at retail with working with the retail partners and doing space to sales. So we actually did analysis on, and it was, really complex work, really grindy work, but we looked at helping the retailer sell more. Nothing's worse than going into a store. It doesn't matter if it's a, liquor store, beer store, and the product you want, grocery store, the product you want is out of stock. Well, we helped them realign their shelves to say, look, you don't want to be out of stock. Someone's going to go somewhere else. And so we helped reallocate the space to sales, and we helped grow their business as a result. And so the win of that it was a win for everybody. It wasn't just self-serving for us. It really was a boon for the retailer. So it was a big bet. and it paid off for everybody. And so I think that's when you can find those sorts of wins, that's really powerful.
So now suddenly you're at Labatt, things are moving, they're doing well, and you go to Kitchen Partners. So tell us about this transition.
Yeah, I mean, it's, timing's sort of everything. Back in 2004, Labatt was sold to a Brazilian outfit. And they came in and a wildly different culture than the culture I grew up with. And culture was very important. And you realize we weren't aligned. And it's not to say that we were right and they were wrong. That's not it. We just weren't aligned. And so, the sort of writing was on the wall that for me, this wasn't the place for me to be spending my time because, it just didn't feel right. And so 3 of us left Labatt and went to a small organization. And I remember telling people, hey, this is what we're going to do. And people thought we were crazy. Let me get this straight. You're leaving the big machine, really amazing company, and you're going to go do what? In a little small entrepreneurial thing that nobody had ever heard of? Yep, that's what we're going to go do. And so it was something that I always wanted to do. I knew I had this entrepreneurial spirit, even though I was a corporate sort of guy my whole life. But it was the chance to take all of the things you learn in big companies and all those principles and the things you learn and go apply it to a, totally entrepreneurial setting. It was a fantastic choice and a really fun ride.
So what is Kitchen Partners?
Great question. So what it became and what it was when we first got there, kind of different. So it really was a distribution company. So think food distribution. So think, people would probably see the trucks going down the road, Cisco or Gordon Food Service, so food distribution, right? So if you're a restaurant, that's typically where your groceries come from, where your plates come from. You partner with those big distributors, and they're the ones that bring it to the restaurant's door. Well, we did that, except on a really small scale, and we did a little manufacturing, meaning we made sauce. And those were the 2 sort of parts of the business, this distribution thing with a very little bit of manufacturing. And so strategically, we got there and said, look, we're going to try to grow both parts of the business, but really only one's going to be able to survive. Let's see which one survives. And I think in our heart of hearts, we knew the food manufacturing part was going to be the one that survived. More exciting, way more value that can be added to that versus the food distribution game. It's important. It's an important part of the food business. But what's a good day? You got the boxes there, the invoice showed up, and as long as those 2 things happen, great. Anything short of that, you're a bit of a turkey. And so it's not really that exciting versus the actual manufacturing, the production of food, way more exciting, way more interesting with way more opportunities.
So you said the sauce. What was the secret sauce?
Well, we made one product, and one of the things that's interesting about the way we approached the business was confidentiality and trust is really important. And so we were very careful not to talk about who we did work for, because especially in the chain restaurant game, they want consumers, guests, to think that it gets made right back there, when in reality, that's not the case in many instances. So we did work for the major players in the chain business. It started out, we had one customer, one product, and we grew it from there. And so, we were very careful not to talk about who we did business for, not to talk about really what products we made, because that was our promise to our customer. And in fact, I had signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, that says we won't talk about this stuff, which made it really hard to sort of talk to other people and say, hey, trust us, we could do a good job for you. Well, who do you do work for? Well, I can't tell you. So it made it a little tricky especially early days, to sort of convince people, hey, trust us with your brand, we're going to do a good job for you.
So how many brands did you end up having with Kitchen Partners?
I was in the 17 years, and I was responsible for product development. So we had a team of food scientists. We started with none. My partner Jeff and I made one of the very first products, him and I, late at night with the help of some quality assurance folks. So we did it right. We made French onion soup together, late into the night. But where it ended up, we ended up doing work for over 30 customers, and that would be a combination of food service customers as well as the big retail brands that you would know about. We ended up doing work for those folks as well.
Well, there's got to be a quality control issue, because I'm going here, okay, you're sitting there signing an NDA, but Kitchen Partners also has a name. So you would probably have had to fire some customers, I would imagine.
I'm happy to say that in the time I did it, we never lost a customer, and I fired 3. And it all comes down to, again, surprise, surprise, it all comes down to sort of one thing: trust. And I firmly believe that trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship we have in our life. Doesn't matter whether it's with the car dealer or whoever, every meaningful relationship in our life is built on trust. And so, with customers and with potential customers, I talk to it, look, I really honor that you're trusting us with your brand. You trust that we're going to make it right. You trust that we're going to make it the same way every time. You trust that I'm going to give you fair pricing. And so trust is super important. And, the reason why I said goodbye to a couple of customers was on the basis of trust. That, you've told me, hey, your volume's going to be X. And it's not like you missed by a little bit, you kind of missed by a lot. Okay, well, I went to people and said, hey, we're going to go through this much raw material. This is why I gave you this pricing. And so when I really felt like, geez, this isn't going to be good for the both of us, sort of said goodbye and said, hey, we're done, and we'll move on. But happy to say we never lost a customer in the whole 17 years I was doing it.
So it was all the manufacturing here in Edmonton?
Yeah. Yep. So we started on one shift and invested a lot into the business, into the building. In the end, we were running 24 hours a day, wrapping the clock. We invested a lot of money, not only in gear, but I would say more importantly in people.
It's so funny. I so want to ask you what lines and everything, but I know you're not going to tell me any of that stuff.
But I guarantee you, if you have eaten at any kind of chain restaurant, at any point in time, guaranteed you ate the food we made. And it's soup, sauces, dressings, dips, anything that sort of had some flow or viscosity. Yeah, we made it hot, cold, pretty amazing stuff. So I would bet most of the people listening to this or watching this would have eaten the food we made and never knew it, which is okay.
And things you never think of. I never knew there was something like a Kitchen Partners.
Yep, there's not very many in Canada. It's a much bigger deal in the U.S. Again, we were a federally inspected meat and seafood plant, so we had CFIA inspectors on site 3 times a day, not once in a while, not maybe even once a day. Every shift, we had a CFIA inspector on site, and we looked at that as that's actually a really good thing. Because if you have a great relationship with them and they see something that, geez, they're not quite sure about or something they don't like, it's actually to our benefit. They're trying to protect us. They're not trying to be jerks. They're not trying to, cause us any grief. And so we looked at it as this is an opportunity for us to get better. And so if there was something, let's have a discussion about it. So, we really believed in partnership so much we put it in the name, hence Kitchen Partners.
How many employees did you have? And where was the business?
So it's located on the scenic south side in behind the Costco facility on 91st Street. It's still there, still operating. We ended up with over 80 employees, again, running 3 shifts. Fantastic. And I had 2, it wasn't just me, let's be clear. I had 2 other operating partners and a financial partner. And to this day, the 2 operating partners that we're still partners in another business together. We're still the best of friends. There's, partnership. You talk to lots of people about partnership, and it's a bit of a challenge. Even when there's only 2 people involved, we'll try 3 equal partners. But it was it was the blessing of my life to have two people that and I use this specifically, love, trust, and respect so much. To have the three of us working on things, even though I was responsible for the commercial side of the business, so sales, marketing, product development. My other partner, Jeff, was the president and oversaw sort of the whole thing. And my other partner, Darren, ran finance and supply chain.
So were Jeff and Darren, were they the two gentlemen that left Labatt at the same time as you?
Yep, absolutely.
So obviously you didn't like their philosophy at the time when the Brazilian company bought out. So what is your philosophy then as a business?
Well, I mean, this isn't going to sound very earth-shattering, but it starts with people. People are the crux. I mean, it was a big thing for me to invite customers to come to our place, or potential customers to come to our place, because I actually wasn't the one making the food. I was really proud to showcase not only our facility, but I think more importantly, our people, to say, these are the people that actually care about what it is we are selling you, and it's got your name on it. So please come and see the passion, see how much they care about what they're doing. It makes all the difference in the world. So culture is a really big thing, starts with people, and then having a unifying purpose, vision, and values. That's the glue, the foundation that holds all that together, is having a unified purpose. Why do we come to work every day? Why do we exist? That's a big deal. The vision, what do we want this thing to become? Where are we taking? Where's everybody coming on this journey with us? That was pretty cool. And then the values, sort of those operating principles. How are we going to make decisions? What do we value? Well, these are the values. And I was really proud that, again, I could walk the floor with a customer, not planted, and ask any one of our 80 plus, employees and say, hey, tell me about a value. Tell me a value story. And they were happy to speak up about a value story that they had witnessed or demonstrated themselves. Really, really powerful stuff.
So you and your two other partners, then, did you break this all down when you left Labatt and saying, okay, because initially you were going, okay, it's either distribution or it's going to be manufacturing. And then is that when you started to build that philosophy, or did that happen over time?
It happened over time, but I would say to our core, we understood the power of serving. I would say the power of serving, and servitude is a really awesome, powerful thing. So servant leadership, I mean, it's very much, I wouldn't say in vogue, but it's a popular concept. It's not sort of new news, but how you demonstrate that and bring that to life. Our org chart, so our official org chart that we had to have posted, again, as a CFIA facility, have to have posted. Our org chart was actually upside down with my partner Jeff at the bottom and everybody else. And I never used the language that, oh, well, that person works for me. No, I support them. It's my job to give them the tools they need to help coach, mentor, lead. They're the ones that actually are on the front lines every day. They are the most important people. And it's not just sort of nice talk, but then you behave differently. I think we worked really hard to behave the way you're supposed to behave.
And trust goes both ways. You trust your 80 employees, and then they trust you back.
And it really is a super powerful thing. We communicated lots. I mean, I think back, we lived through the pandemic, so you can imagine living through the pandemic, what happened to food service literally overnight. You went from restaurants being open to restaurants being closed. So our revenue evaporated overnight. Businesses shut down. So we had raw material we had to convert, we had finished goods we had to deal with, and over 50% of what we sold actually went fresh, meaning refrigerated. So it's got a very marked shelf life. Okay, well, we got to make sure we can manage this if we have millions of dollars in finished goods that we've got to deal with and communicate with our customers and our suppliers and everything. So it was a massive challenge.
That could be a whole episode unto itself.
It could be a whole episode unto itself on how we broke it down, but it really was take care of our employees, take care of our customers, and we'll worry about the financial fallout later. Don't get confused. Yes, you have to run a good business and everything else, but revenue and all those other things are a result of doing great work and knowing your business and knowing your customer's business.
This is okay. We're going to wrap this segment up today. You've given us some incredible insights and how you transform industries from Budweiser and Labatt over to
another kind of sauce.
Another kind of sauce, yes, Kitchen Partners. And the sauce, he can't tell us or where we eat it, but that's fine. I'm over it. But stay with us. The next episode is going to be of Early Days, brought to you by Prowse Chowne, is going to be talking about, well, a brand new company, Propellerant Consulting. Yep. You want to give us a little tease?
Sure. I mean, it really is taking all of the things that I've learned over 30 plus years of really trying to be a student of business and bringing that and helping other people with their challenges.
Okay. And that wraps up episode 1. Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This series is proudly produced by the team at Road 55. Road 55 creates content that connects. For more information, check our website, www.road55.ca.